This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
What actually happens when a network cares more about ratings than the truth? In the case of CNN, owned by parent company Warner Media, it seems that CNN has resorted to other means in order to keep you watching. What you're about to see is so shocking. Admissions about COVID, its impact, the bias, and things that we've all suspected but have never been able to confirm until now.
It's fear. Fear really drives numbers. It really does. The happiest days in news, people, I would imagine, turn it off and then they go with the camera. They don't stay glued to it. Unless there's something that's uniting them, like the moon landing or something like that. Fear is the thing that keeps you tuned in. I imagine. What's the scariest thing there? Sad news doesn't do well with ratings. If you can get someone impassioned, that does really well with ratings. Sad news, back to back to back, doesn't do really well unless it affects them directly. COVID, gangbusters with ratings, right? Which is why we constantly have the death toll on the side, which I have a major problem with, that we're tallying how many people die every day. Because I've even looked at it and be like, let's make it higher. Why isn't it high enough, today? It would make our point better if it was higher.
It would make our point better if the death toll were higher. Now, I know that's kind of hard to hear in some spots, but I thought I rarely like to do something like that. It plays best on TV, so we can have the text of what's being said displayed at the same time. But I think you heard enough of it to understand the whole idea of CNN was to scare the hell out of you. You were listening, caught on a Project Veritas undercover operation to a guy identified as Charlie Chester, a CNN tech director. Now, tech director, in case you missed the program yesterday, and again, I don't know exactly how CNN sets up their alignment, but here's the way it basically would be. Forgive me if you heard yesterday and now you know it all. But normally a producer would be deciding what goes in the program and how long each item is going to run. Now, there may be an executive producer above them and, of course, a news director above them and so forth and so on. But once it comes to going on the program, well, the producer has put it together. The director takes the program format that's laid out and then calls for the shots from the cameras or calling for tapes and sound as it refers to the format. The technical director is just the one that pushes the buttons and brings the camera online or brings the audio. They may have a separate audio person, but that's all they're doing. And I'm not dismissing what they're doing, but it's not a decision-making process. But yet, here's this guy who is a tech director for CNN telling you how they make the sausage. And it ain't pretty. You don't even like the taste of what comes out of CNN. But here now you know that they're behind the scenes. They're looking for a way to basically scare the hell out of you. And putting those death numbers up there during COVID, oh, yeah, that's good stuff. It's good stuff because Trump is in office. And the more those numbers tick up, it's Trump. Got to blame it on Trump. Well, but the numbers suddenly jumped because of nursing home deaths in New York State, where the governor ordered the nursing homes to keep the COVID patients. Yeah, that's not part of the number. It just goes up there. They don't explain how, why. They don't explain if those are really dead from COVID or they died with COVID. And there's a big difference. Were there deaths directly to COVID? No doubt. But when the public's already kind of confused, everything they do like that, it's just going to cause more confusion and fear, which is exactly what they want because they feed on fear. They know that you'll stay around to watch fear. And in fact, Charlie Chester, in this interview where he got caught by an undercover camera, apparently being asked by someone either working inside CNN and posing just as an inquisitive young beginning reporter about how they play these numbers, and listen to this.
Who gets to decide how long that stays on, or
Head of the network. I've been in the room many a times where my director tells me take it down, and I take take it down, and then we get a phone call. Like the bat phone like rings in the back. It's literally a red phone, like this special red phone ring.
Yeah.
And they pick it up, and this producer picks it up, and you're mop, 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 mop. And every so often they put it on speaker, and it's like the head of the network being like, there's nothing that you're doing right now that makes me want to stick. Put the numbers back up, because that's the most enticing thing that we have. So put it back up. So like things like that are constantly talked about.
And the guy making that call on the bat phone, the red phone, would be Zucker, the head of CNN News. Calling and saying, hey, there's no reason for me to watch. Put the numbers back up there. Keep the numbers up. Keep the numbers up. And in fact, Charlie Chester said, I wish sometimes I just want to add more numbers to it. It would be better, as you heard earlier, if we actually put more numbers on it. I don't mean keeping it on the air longer. I mean artificially move them up. Because you know they're going to go up. Why not do it up when you're on the air? So what if the next day that you start lowering what you last posted? Who's going to remember? All they remember is the numbers are going up, and it's got to be Trump. Let me give you another example. You remember, of course, that there was a lot of concern about, from, quote, mainstream media, or as I now call them, state-controlled media, about going to the Lake of the Ozarks in the early months. Remember that? Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, or Clearwater Beach, Florida. A Washington Post headline said, a year into the pandemic, it's even more clear that it's safer to be outside. Essentially providing the media narrative was widely overblown. So the Washington Post quietly admitting the mainstream, or now as I call them, the state-controlled media outlets, were wrong to panic folks over going to the Lake of the Ozarks and gathering in groups, or Clearwater Lake. And in fact, the Post reporters added, for more than a year, the vast majority of documented coronavirus clusters have been linked to indoor or indoor-outdoor settings, households, meatpacking plants, nursing homes, restaurants, near absent or transmissions at beaches and other spaces where breezes disperse airborne particles. Distancing is easier. Humidity and sunlight make coronavirus less viable. And CNN was one of those guilty of that. In fact, Brian Stelter of CNN shamed the partiers crowded at the Lake of the Ozarks pool for, quote, obviously ignoring warnings from health officials. I will tell you this. I saw the picture of one of those Lake of the Ozark pools and so many people in there, I wouldn't get in there anyway. Forget COVID. I just don't think I'll get in the water. But again, what we have from the mainstream media, or state-controlled media now, is what can we do to make it look like the other people are to blame for scaring, not us. We've just been reporting the science. Let me give you a perfect example. Last night, a CNN anchor had Dr. Fauci on, their favorite pet at this point. And he wants to kind of lambaste Tucker Carlson on something he had said about Fauci the night before. Listen to how he plays it out. The CNN anchor is trying to act like I wouldn't even put Tucker Carlson on our air because it wouldn't save lives or help anything. As if they're saving lives by this report? Of course, come on. But he said, I wouldn't even do that. But Dr. Fauci, I want you to respond to it. Just hear how it plays out.
Last night, I want to read you, I don't want to play it because I'm not sure that helps the cause here of saving lives, something that TV personality Tucker Carlson said on TV about vaccines in general. He said, if vaccines are effective, there's no reason for people who have received the vaccine to wear masks or avoid physical contact. So maybe it doesn't work. And they're simply not telling you that. Let me repeat that again. So maybe it doesn't work, and they're simply not telling you that. What do you have to say to Tucker Carlson?
Yeah. That's just a typical crazy conspiracy theory. Why would we not tell people if it doesn't work? Look at the data. The data are overwhelming. In the 3 vaccines that have been approved for use in an emergency use authorization, the J&J the Pfizer and the Moderna, you had 30,000, 44,000, and 40,000 people in a clinical trial with an overwhelming signal of efficacy. So I don't have any idea what he's talking about.
And, of course, Dr. Fauci has been right all the time. I have any idea what he's talking about, because I remember March of last year on a 60 Minutes interview, Dr. Fauci said, you don't need a mask. Mask's not going to do you any good. It might stop one droplet, but it's not going to work for you. And now you need 2 masks, even if you've had the vaccine. But again, the CNN anchor wants to play up how dangerous Tucker Carlson is. Not us, Tucker Carlson and Fox. Here we go again.
How dangerous is it for a TV personality like that, who does have an audience of millions, to speculate about something like that?
Well, it's certainly not helpful to the public health of this nation or even globally. You know, I don't want to get into arguments about Tucker Carlson, but to me, it's just, it's counter to what we were trying to accomplish to protect the safety and the health of the American public.
Isn't that rich? CNN saying, look how dangerous Tucker Carlson is. They had to admit he does have millions, more than you guys do. But again, trying to get Fauci to condemn him. And he said, well, it doesn't help. I go back to CNN, that Project Veritas, when Charlie Chester, CNN technical director, said, what we really push for you is not news, but fear.
You said it's going to be like the new COVID.
I feel like, well, that's the way it was built. Unless that was just a call to arms to get people to start writing and then we'll assess it. I don't know. But
do you think it's going to be just like a lot of like fear, like climate?
Yeah, fear sells.
The fear sells, so climate's our next game. More on news coverage. Not really news coverage. Stand by.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter @LarryConnorsUSA.